All right, welcome all. This is that lone wolf on Witchcraft TV, broadcasting on Roku television and also on www.witchcrafttv.online. And I have a special guest backstage who's a pagan veteran. And because of the whole thing with the Department of Defense, with all of these new reform that's been going on and lots of rhetoric that's been, talked about on social media, in the likes, in the tabloids, in the news, in mainstream medias. I wanted to get right down to the core of really what's going on and talk to somebody who themselves is a pagan veteran, and get some understanding on what's going on with the Department of Defense and how they have had a reform that seems to be affecting the pagan witchcraft, druid, magic, occult community. So without further ado, we're going to bring on Eric Cook. Eric Cooper. My apologies. Eric, how are you doing? I hope everything's well. I really wanted to have you on to get to the bottom of this whole Department of Defense thing and what happened. Now, as a veteran, this hits home for you a lot. So as a veteran, what happened, man? What do you see that happened?
Well, let's see. I think it's all part of the Christian nationalist agenda, to be honest with you. And you've got some who will say, "Oh no, it's just streamlining the religions." Well, they went from 200 to 31. 21 or 22 of those are all Christian-based religions. If they really wanted to streamline, they could have taken pagan and heathen, which are, umbrellas of earth-based religions, and left them alone. They didn't. They took them all off. Every one of them specifically. So, no, it's a political move. And as anything in the military, it all trickles down to the civilian sector. So, that's where you got to worry about it too. Now, honestly, where it from the troops I've actually talked to and heard from, is it really going to affect us or the pagans in the military? It's going to be a 50-50. It's really going to fall upon the specific chaplain that is sponsoring that group. And I would say about 80%, and this is just me throwing out a number, but a good bulk of the chaplains are there for troop support. They're not going to listen to a damn word the DoD says. They are going to continue to endorse. So let's backtrack real quick. So we don't have a pagan chaplain. There never has been a pagan chaplain in the military. I heard rumors through the years, and to clarify, I got medically retired in 2010. But we became an endorsing agent with Forest Moon Grove for 6 groups in Korea, 2 groups, I believe, in Germany, the base in Alaska, Fort Wainwright. So because we don't have a pagan chaplain, they established what's called a DFGL or a DRGL, which is a Distinguished Faith Group Leader or Distinguished Religious Group Leader. Now, if a Christian that's not ordained wants to have a Bible study, they have to be a DFGL, which means they have to get endorsed by whatever organization of their faith is that's recognized by the military. Now, with the pagans, we had Sacred Well, we had Circle Sanctuary, and we have Aquarian Tabernacle here in Washington. Those are 3. We were recognized as Forest Moon Grove for endorsing agents, but I stepped down from that. So you go to one of those 3 and you say, I'm in the Army. I would like to be a DFGL, DRGL, to run a pagan group in such and such base, Israel, wherever they are deployed right now, a Navy ship. and they get a letter from this endorsing agent, which they take to their chaplain, and the chaplain is the sponsor. That's it. The chaplain's got nothing to do with it, other than saying, okay, yes, you're endorsed by this organization. I will allow you to practice. Now, and that sounds bad, it sounds unconstitutional, but by allowing you to practice, that means you have access to the chapel building if you need to, which there's many stories about that because I've been a DFGL as well as an endorsing agent, so I've seen both sides. For example, in Balad, Iraq, 0405, we ran Desert Moon Grove. I went to the chaplain. I got my letter of endorsement. The chaplain said, "Okay, you can have this nice spot over here in our chapel area." Well, okay, cool. But 2 days later, there was a whole big pile of lumber in the spot that he gave us. That tells you how much respect they have for you. But in the meantime, I didn't want that spot. I went to my motor sergeant and said, "Look, we need a spot to practice. Can I use the shop at night?" And originally, when we started, we wanted it to be once a week, maybe just to gather. But the troops showed every night. So we actually met every night. It was more of a morale thing for them. If we had a soldier that lost their leader, which happened, we would do a healing ritual on them. We would drink valerian tea. We had herbs. So I had an herb cabinet. I had a library. So yeah, it ended up every night. Then we ran again in Telefar, Iraq, from November 05 to October 06. And that was, I mean, both tours had their own challenges. I'd say the worst was probably in Telefar. And that's because I had a Mormon commander and a Catholic first sergeant, neither one of which had anything good to say about Pagan. So we're out under a full moon, just soaking in the energy, and the first sergeant comes up, "Sergeant Cooper, what are you doing?" "Well, we're doing a full moon ceremony." "Well, do you have to do it here?" What? You know, and that was just one example. We again got the use of this chapel. We met one time, and when we were supposed to meet again, they locked it up. They didn't give us a key. So again, we didn't have a place to practice. So we all met in my CHU. So a CHU is a civilian housing unit. It's basically a two-person trailer. Everyone's got one. So we ended up meeting in my CHU every night for that whole year. And there's another time the first sergeant peeks around the corner and says, "Sergeant Cooper, come here. You guys can't do that." I'm like, "Oh, well, tell you what, until y'all give us a spot to actually practice, we will keep doing it." And I mean, he could have tried to get me for disrespect, but at the same time, he knew he didn't have. It wasn't a fight he could win. It was a constitutional issue. So I guess about 3 months into it, we noticed these guys were watching us every time they walked by, and finally one night they came up and they didn't speak English because they were Turkish special forces. We got more respect from Islamic special forces than we did our own Christians in the military. That's just from regular units. That's just from regular chaplains. That's just from regular soldiers. Can you imagine what's going to happen now that the DOD has come out and said we don't exist? The repercussions could be crazy, or the repercussions will be the same as they are now, or have been. Again, it's going to be dependent on specific chaplains. So in Balad, the chaplain, I didn't even talk to him for the entire year. I ran into him towards the end of his tour, and he said, could you write me an after action review on all the good things I did for you? It's like, okay, sure. So I put together a 3-ring binder, and I listed all of our events that we did. I listed the pros that he did, which the only thing he did was sponsor us, and I listed the cons, the improvements that could have been done, which was one, list us on the religious services so that other soldiers could find where we are. Maybe have us involved with the chaplains on the installation if there were pagan issues. I had a whole list. I had a longer list of the negatives than I did the positives, obviously. About 2-3 weeks later, I ran into a colonel, which was the actual replacing chaplain for this guy, and this colonel says, Sergeant Cooper, I'm confused and very concerned. Could I talk to you? He had read this after action review, and he was pissed. He looked at me and said, "Are you telling me that all this shit that was not done? I mean, none of this was done for you?" And I told him, no, we were completely on our own. We had zero military support at all. And he assured me at that point it's all going to be fixed. And we left. So, again, you have chaplains like that. And you have chaplains that, well, you don't give a damn because, he tried to convert me. Once I had my letter of endorsement, he said, "Do you believe in the Holy Ghost?" I looked at him and said, "You know what? I was born and raised as somebody of God. I know your religion probably better than you do. Don't even try. I'm a witch. I'm very happy being a witch. I've never felt better being a witch. So just stop." And he did. But then you've got chaplains like the one that was in Baghdad, who had 6 soldiers that were dying on the ground. And he looked at their dog tags. He saw a Christian, he gave them last rites. He saw a pagan, he stepped over them and went to the next soldier. So you've got a pagan troop that's laying on the ground dying from combat injuries. In reality, he should have called the DFGL on that installation to come and be with that troop. He didn't. And when the DFGL who heard about it asked him, "Why wasn't I called?" he was told, "Stay in your lane, that wasn't your job." Well, yeah, it was actually. What do we have done right now? We have the MRFF. The MRFF is probably the biggest thorn in the military side. That's the Military Religious Freedom Foundation. The founder and main organizer of it is Mikey Weinstein. He's not pagan. He's actually Jewish. But I believe, and don't correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe his daughter is Wiccan. But that's irrelevant because this is a man that gets more complaints from Christian soldiers that are complaining about violations against non-Christians than he does pagans or Jewish or any other belief system. So why are they feared? They are feared because they are the ones that hit mostly right-wing news about, "Oh my God, look, they're suing the military over this, and we can have a Bible and whatever." But yeah, I emailed Mikey a couple nights ago about the DoD thing, and they've been working non-stop on it 24/7. So is it going to last? It might not, but I don't see a lot changing. I think the biggest impact is really principle. How can you recognize 21 Christian belief systems and no one else? I think Baha'i is on there. I mean, y'all heard the news. I believe it was the Mormons that got pissed off because they dropped Christians from the Mormon belief. I mean, who are they to even tell anyone what a religion is?
So let me ask you this: does the new reform from the Department of Defense, the United States, is that going to pull dog tags that say Wiccan, Pagan on the dog tags?
no, they can't.
They can't.
No, they can't. Um, they can try, but no, they can't. Because honestly, dog tags don't come from the DoD. Dog tags come from your unit PAC NCO, which PAC is your administration. Most of your PAC, unless they're extreme Christian, I'll call them mega Christians because that I don't like lumping all Christians into one basket. True Christians follow the orders of Jesus Christ. They love their neighbor. They don't have hate. Mega Christians, yeah, they hate anyone that's not white. They are your white Christian male that just hate anybody. They hate immigration, which Jesus preached to take care of the foreigner. Um, so and you have um, mega personnel in the military. That is hands down. But are they a majority? No. So troops can go to their PAC office and get Pagan on their dog tags. Most of them won't give a damn. Or they can go pay the $5 and get Pagan on their dog tags, and they've got some. So does that impact our dog tags? No.
So let me ask you about the gravestone markers, particularly because back in I think it might have been the
2007.
80s, 70s, like Arlington, Virginia, where we have pagan markers on the gravestone from the military. Is that going to be pulled now because of this new reform with the Department of Defense?
That's a question I can't 100% answer because I don't know because the VA handles that and it's a separate entity from the DoD. Now, can they pressure the administration of the VA? They can try. It depends on how loyal to the administration they are, whether they do it or not. But they're going to get the same fight that we are all involved in. Because I mean, Forest Moon was involved in, Desert Moon was involved in writing to our Congress, and we were all involved in that fight. There might have been a couple key figures that were on the news and influential, but there was a whole lot. There was a big war on that one with a lot of pagans, especially a lot of pagan military that wanted the pentacle on our headstone. And what was funny is not funny, but what was ironic about that whole thing, again, you had 31 Christian symbols that were recognized. I should be able to have Mickey Mouse on my damn headstone if I want. But they've got 31 symbols for Christianity. The atheists even had an atom, a symbol of the atom, but pagans can't have Thor's hammer or a pentacle or a triple moon or that's bullshit.
So tell me because of the reform with the Department of Defense, what does change? What has been done that affects our pagans, our witches, our Wiccans, Druids, earth-based spiritual practitioners in the military? How does that affect them?
When you join the military, there's going to be codes for the recognized, and those what got taken away was the codes. So when you join the military, there's going to be a code that's given to what your religion is. And right now, we're all lumped under other. So you go in there as a witch, they're going to have the code for other. Whereas before, there was the code for a witch. There was the code for a Wiccan. There was the code for pagan. So you join the military, you're going to be seen as other. Is that going to impact you on the battlefield if you die? Absolutely. If you're, if you have dietary restrictions because you're a vegan, if you have hygiene, so they did actually get The heathens were allowed to keep a beard. Um, that pissed off a lot of non-heathens. Um, so there's a chance that could get taken away. You know, if you're Islamic, you could have the oh God, I can't remember the headdress they wear. But you know, there's certain religious uh, hygiene items that they can do. Um, have not having that code probably not going to impact a whole lot because again, that's going to depend on the chaplains. According to a couple of chaplains that a couple of our troops have talked to, they haven't been given specific direction from the DoD on how they're supposed to react. So, and a couple of them even said, we don't care what the DoD says. Our job is to make sure troops are taken care of spiritually. And that's what we'll be doing. So that's about it as far as the implications. Is really just the administration code. Um, are we going to see problems? Absolutely, because again, like I said, we're going to have chaplains that are going to take that direction, and they're already mega, but they've had to respect the wishes of pagans because of the Constitution and the DoD. Well, now they don't have to, and now they can refer to the DoD and why they don't have to. That's where the problem's going to lie.
When you first heard, in the mainstream media or tabloids, newspaper, however you heard about it, when you first heard about the Department of Defense pulling, well, doing what they did, so to speak, with this reform that they're doing, what was your first thoughts, and how does it affect you being a veteran and a pagan veteran at that?
It pissed me off, and yeah, it pissed me off to no end because it took us years to get to that point. Um, to get recognized, rather. So again, I was retired in 2010. I believe a lot of the pagan codes were added in like 2020, and they were actually added under Trump and again taken away from Trump. Um, at the direction of King Seth, I call him. He's a drunken piece of shit. Anyway, um, so Forest Moon Grove started in 2005, in between Desert Moon, the two tours, and it's always been running. Dormant a lot, but now very much fired up because I have active duty that are in there. I have DFGLs that are still working as civilians, DFGLs that are in the group. And so I was actually approached too by Belladonna Laveau from Aquarian Tabernacle asking me, what are we, I'm sure you've heard, what are we going to do about this? What is there to be done? And I told her, well, I need you to be ready for DFGL endorsements. That's what needs to happen. Because right now, especially if we have new groups that need to form, or new groups that we need to fight for, we need a very strong PAGI organization, which ATC is. ATC has been around since the 70s. So very backed up, very historic. And one of the organizations that I can rely on to step up when they need to step up. What I like to see happen is, paganpride.org has been dormant for years. We haven't had a Pagan Pride in Washington State since 2023. And back in the early 2000s, God, we had a phenomenal Pagan Pride every year in Seattle, Tacoma. But with the DOD doing their thing and the government in general trying to step on everybody's rights, I think we as pagans need to step it up. Um, don't be in the closet. Step it up. Let's get some pagan prides going on. Let's get some events going on. And respectfully show the public who we are. Because the more they step on you and the more you go down, the more they can see how far they can go with it. Yeah, where did you go, Harold? Let's see here.
Sorry about that.
There you are. So that, yeah. So my brain has been frazzled for about a week now because of all this shit. And yeah, what do you do?
So somebody in the comment section has said military chaplains were previously not required to perform Wiccan ceremonies if it violates their personal religious beliefs, as they cannot be forced to conduct rites contrary to their conscience.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Military chaplains did not perform Wiccan ceremonies. They never have. That's what the DFGL is for. So where that came from, I don't know. I've never heard of a Wiccan chaplain ever, or a military chaplain rather, ever doing a pagan ceremony. Yes.
However, the military accommodates Wiccan and pagan practices.
It does under Department of Defense 1300.17 is a specific guideline that was just updated in 2020 to accommodate military pagan practice.
So because of this Department of Defense new reform thing, are military chaplains no longer going to serve pagan and Wiccan military personnel anymore, or are they still going to, help them get a millionaire, get a pentacle, get a book, get in contact with someone?
That's a good question. So again, military chaplains have never done pagan ceremonies or rituals. That's always been the DFGL's job. All the military chaplain does is sponsor the group over the DFGL, who is endorsed by the pagan organization. That's it in a nutshell. Now, when it comes to they're allowed certain, the DFGL and the group are allowed certain military budget under that chaplain if that chaplain has appropriate, funding to support that group. Usually, that's how they can get away with not giving you a pentacle or not getting you a book. Some chaplains are great. They're again in Baghdad, Mosul. In Mosul, the chaplain gave the pagan group real wine for their Sabbath celebration. I can't remember if it was Lawless or Midsummer, but they actually got real wine from this Catholic chaplain. Whereas the groups I ran, we got more support from civilians. Blackmore Knight, for example, sent us a whole case of every CD they ever had. So every pagan troop that was in Desert Moon got to go home with the entire collection of Blackmore Knight CDs. New Moon Publishing sent us a whole case of pocket spellbooks. So again, every combat knife could serve as a wicked athame. And again, you can use a lot of mundane items to hide your practice.
I mean, if I may interject, Lolan said that I believe a combat knife would serve as a Wiccan athame. Well, an athame is, you don't use it to cut anything. You're not cutting herbs with it. You're not cutting substances.
No, that's a bowline.
Only for magical purposes. So I mean, I guess you could use a combat knife, but there'd be a certain consecration where it's no longer being used for anything else. That's just opinion. I mean, that was just my opinion.
Well, no, all an alchemy is for energy raising. You can use a stick for that purpose.
So, do you have any closing words on the Department of Defense's new reform? This whole thing that it just seems like it's the whole idea of it went viral. A lot of people are kind of unsure of what that really means, what it really did. What are your final thoughts on this, on the whole thing?
Okay, final thoughts. I'm going to say this: it shouldn't be unexpected. This should have been expected from it's probably took this long. How's it going to impact the future? That's the question you'd be asking. So Project 2026 was all about family values and getting rid of same-sex marriage and things like that. So where did the military and the DoD aspect come from, other than trying to Christianize the country? I think what pisses me off more than the DoD side is the fact that they're trying to dedicate the country on its 250th birthday back to the Christian God. That should infuriate people even more than the DoD side. Soldiers will always survive. Pagan soldiers, will always adapt and overcome. We always have, and we always will. We have chaplains in our corner. Going back to Telefar, my chaplain, who was a Christian, actually in Balad, he came to our unit and saw our pagan group, and he changed his religion because of that. He went from evangelical to I'm trying to remember, Orthodox, because he liked the incense and he liked the energy, and he just liked how friendly we were compared to what he saw in his religion. So when we went back to Iraq the next year, he actually threatened our battalion with an IG complaint, a full formal investigation over the way the battalion was treating our group. So you have outstanding chaplains, and then you have the worst of the worst chaplains. The worst of the worst, they can be fought with legality. That's not hard. We have the MRFF for that. Just watch your civilian community, because a lot of shit from the military rolls downhill.
Well, Mr. Eric Cook, thank you so much for serving the country. Very, very proud to have you on Witchcraft TV. As a veteran, also in the comments, we had somebody else that said there was also a vet. So we thank you, both of you, and everyone else that served in our military as a pagan, as a witch, as a Norse, a Druid, any earth-based spirituality, and any military personnel for America. We appreciate you. And every time I've seen somebody out there in the world and they got their hat on or shirt or insignia, I always thank you and thank them for our service. Make sure you keep it right here on Witchcraft TV on Roku television and also on www.witchcrafttv.online. Once again, Eric Cook, thank you for your service and your time to talk about the Department of Defense and what just happened.